Good afternoon. Your Excellency, Mr. Rafael Correa, President of Ecuador and President of Habitat 3, Your Excellency Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Mr. Peter Thompson, President of the UN General Assembly, Your Excellency Mr. John Claus, Secretary General of Habitat 3, Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of civil society, Mr. President, in our quality as pro tempore chair of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, let me join the others in congratulating you and the government of Ecuador on this very important conference, which we know will achieve great progress in considering city developments and human settlements towards sustainable economic development to promote the eradication of poverty, as well as the construction of economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable societies. We welcome the Toluca Declaration adopted at the regional meeting of the Latin American and Caribbean states participating in Habitat 3, which defines the progress and the challenges in constructing cities based on local realities and a vision for the future. We also wanted to express our profound gratitude to co-facilitators, Mexico and the Philippines, for the great effort and energy invested in negotiating this outcome document, which we welcome. We reiterate our aspiration, our common hope that we will achieve in a comprehensive fashion the ambitious 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, including its essential component, Sustainable Development Goals, which are of an integrated and indivisible nature, including, of course, Objective 11. Make sure that cities and human development become inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. To ensure access to all to adequate housing, basic services and transport systems, improvement of marginal areas, recognizing the relevance of urban and territorial development as a tool toward improving the well-being of society as a whole, giving special attention to all individuals, including women and those who find themselves in vulnerable situations, inter alia children, people with disabilities, and aged people. To achieve the eradication of poverty in all its forms, including extreme poverty, we need to take up the greatest global challenge, but which is indispensable as a prerequisite condition for sustainable development. We have shown our strong determination to eradicate extreme poverty and inequality in our part of the world. Furthermore, the commitment to leave nobody behind in the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda is in sync with our own commitment to combat growing inequalities and exclusions through development and implementation of effective public policies to prevent geographic segregation and environmental damage exacerbated by the urban development proceeding at a particularly high rate in our regions. Mr. President, member states believe that it's imperative to reaffirm our commitment to sustainable urban development as a critical phase as we move towards sustainable development. The new urban agenda should be implemented within the framework of respect for human rights and gender equality, and priority should be given to the equitable and sustainable development of human settlements as a way to fully develop each individual. We recognize that the city is a place where people meet, where culture thrives, where opportunities exist for the development of individuals, an expression of the plurality, which is life. We must ensure that all people, men and women in all societies, living in various conditions of human and cultural diversity, have full access to territory in the city and all the opportunities that the city brings, and guarantee their political participation, as well as participation in social, economic, and cultural activities in constructing and developing such cities. To construct cities with a focus on gender equality, to allow women of all developing cities to be on equal terms and develop fully, to have full advantage of the benefits of the city and its public spaces, take measures to ensure effective integration within the community and access for all, in particular, people with disabilities in cities and human settlements, providing favorable environment in terms of public transportation and services. In this regard, our member states of CELAC recognize the following key elements in the new urban agenda: adequate housing, ensuring within the framework of respect for human rights that housing is integrated and inclusive as part of the Sustainable Development Agenda, facilitating access for all individuals to adequate housing and services, safe and accessible, and an improvement of informal settlements. Urban and territorial planning. Incorporate within the urban design and development plans a sustainable approach to land management and territorial development, strengthening ties between the various urban areas, but also between urban and rural areas, with a view to establishing productive and harmonious relations among various environments, and promote a system of national planning which would incorporate a vision of both, which would recognize the functional relations and mutual dependencies that exist in the economic sphere between urban centers, also in the areas of the environment, technology, and social development. And this goes for the various urban nuclei and other types of human settlements. Urban government. The governance of cities should be improved at all levels in each city, including the relationship that the city enters into with rural areas, promoting mechanisms and legal frameworks that guarantee cooperation and coordination among municipal authorities and various levels of government. Water and health. Develop a system of water supply through pipes based on approach to proven cleanliness and health for all citizens, necessary to ensure equitable and universal access to potable water and hygienic services. Sustainable transport, mobility. We support the transition of cities toward the concept of sustainable mobility. So it should be inclusive and equitable, that meets the distinctive needs of individuals and communities to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and promote security on the roads. This transition should be one of the priorities in terms of investment in infrastructure, and should be part of the equitable distribution of public space. Land management. Promote a social and environmental method of managing land, which would be inclusive and integrated to promote equitable societies through a policy of fair distribution of work and authority, overcoming the process of segregation, ensuring that the land market should be based on the fair distribution of value created through the process of urban development, through fiscal, judicial, and urban development measures to avoid and prohibit speculative practices. The environment, resilience, and climate change. We highlight the impact on all human settlements and territories of climate change through promoting responsible and sustainable modes of consumption and production, sustainable use of natural resources, restoration of degraded systems. Also, step up preventive and reactive measures to raise the resilience level of cities in this regard, and their capability of recover after disasters and extreme events strike in the shortest possible time, minimizing human, environmental, and material losses through disaster risk management measures. Finally, we emphasize the fact that the right to the city is considered in some countries to be a guiding principle to make sure that people live in conditions necessary for them to exercise all human rights universally acknowledged. When these rights are respected and all actors and stakeholders live up to their responsibility and their commitment, this leads to effective urban development that provides opportunities for human beings everywhere. And since time immemorial, people have sought to concentrate in urban areas. Habitat 3 is the third such conference, but the first large conference of the United Nations to be held this year as part of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda and the Paris Agreement. It's the first opportunity we have to introduce a new framework for development and work together on a global agenda for sustainable urban and rural development. We welcome this event. We thank the government of Ecuador and the city of Quito for their hospitality and recognize the work carried out to ensure the success of this conference, Habitat 3. Thank you very much.
De Estado de la República de Cuba por su declaración. Tengo ahora el honor de invitar a la excelentísima señora María Leonor Robredo, vicepresidenta y presidente del Consejo de Coordinación de Vivienda y Desarrollo Urbano de la República de Filipinas, a hacer uso de la palabra. Y pido al representante del protocolo que acompaña a su excelencia.